Seated. Welcome back to another Peaceful Solution Character Education program lesson. We are in the Moral Excellence in the Workplace book, and we are on Chapter 5, Lesson Plan, Respect, Give It Freely. Now, when you're teaching your employees this manual and you're learning it yourself, it's very important to go back to concepts that you really want to reinforce. And that's what I want to do right now. And turning back to page 11, it talks about the importance of moral values to character. It says here that moral values clearly separate what is right from wrong, and they are the foundation of character. And it says a moral value that is accepted universally, that everyone would want to be treated that way. Now, there's 3 basic categories, and I want you to keep these in mind as we go over class tonight. The first one is behavior and attitude toward all life, all people, plants, animals, all life. Number 2, behavior and attitudes toward possessions and property, remembering that everyone has the right to their own belongings without fear of it being stolen, vandalized, or destroyed. And then the third one is a behavior and attitude toward the environment. We all have the responsibility to care for the earth. So last week, as you recollect, recollect our thoughts, we were going over some scenarios that take place in different workplaces. And we really, this is so important to go over these things with your employees just so that they know what you expect of them and how you view things, how the Peaceful Solution handles situations. Now, it's not that everyone knows these things automatically. A child automatically doesn't know how to walk as soon as it comes out of the womb. It's trained up and it's taught. And so many times in the workplace, we just don't understand how to deal with people, and that's what's so great about the Peaceful Solution. It sets it all out, and it puts it in an order you can understand it. And in today's society where there's not a lot of communication, because we have our text phones and you just text something and you wait for an answer. You don't even text full sentences. You don't even answer full sentences. So it's almost like we're all, as a society, learning how to communicate better. So the first scenario, we went and we learned that never fight back, never retaliate. No matter how you're treated, choose to be the person the Peaceful Solution is making you into. The second one, remember, Edward was a customer service representative, and he was had to keep calling his boss back to make sure he was doing it properly, and he wasn't treated so kindly. And it said here at the bottom that true leaders are those who can show respect to others, even when others are disrespectful to them. So he wasn't really the one in authority at that job, but it seemed to me he was actually the leader in character at that scenario. And we kept going on, and then we learned that character is gained by many acts. It takes a lot of work to build your character, but it can be lost just by one single incident. So we want to really be mindful of everything we do. And then we went to scenario D, where both of them weren't really using a Peaceful Solution about the ketchup and the way it was served, and it just really didn't go well for either of them. And that's showing that the need for respectful communication and interactions cannot be overstated. That is so very important to get communication between people together. I mean, so that you can work it out, talk it out. And then we had 2 more, and they just went over different things about not saying meanful or mean things towards each other or about each other in private, because you know what? It not only hurts that person, but it hurts the people that are saying it, because they're devaluating who they really can become. So this is where we are. At the end of page 89, it told us to go back to page 79. So here's where you tell everyone to turn their books to page 79. And we're going to go to procedure 7. Bring students' attention that the military, the armed services are also workplaces. However, there are special and unique circumstances that come with these jobs. Ask students to name some of the stressors that fall upon military personnel. And here they give you examples. Being in a foreign place, you might be a little fearful, apprehensive, anxious. Troubles at home that they aren't able to help with. You have a family, but you're deployed to go somewhere. And then here you are with situations that you have to have someone else take care of when you really want to be there to take care of them yourself. The fact that they're carrying weapons, the thought that they might have to die or that they might kill someone. That would be a hard thing for anyone to live with. We as human beings, it's not built within our mechanisms in a human being to want to kill. So then we know that killing, war, is a trained thing. Just like if you want to be trained not to war, then you'll have to come to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program and learn how to have peace. So you see, it's just a matter of training. Either you're trained up in war or you're trained up in peace. So now let's go back over to page 90. Respectful communication and interactions in the armed services. Although we might not consider the armed services as a true workplace or work environment, it is. But rather than reporting to a specific building to perform your duties, you report to on-call as determined. So you never know what's coming up the next day or the next week. You just don't know. It is also a unique experience with stressors unlike normal workplaces. Due to this, military personnel must prepare their minds in advance to use self-control and show respect in every situation. Even more, because they're dealing with a lot more stress, they have a lot more responsibility. So now we're going to read this article and answer the questions that follow. And even though it's not, like it said, not a normal workplace, any situation, we can take things from it and really look at how we can incorporate different things in our own situations, our own work areas. It says here that military sexual assault epidemic continues to claim victims as Defense Department fails females. It says here, active duty female personnel make up roughly 14.5% or 207,308 members of the more than 1.4 million armed forces, according to the Department of Defense. 1 in 3 military women has been sexually assaulted, compared to 1 in 6 civilian women. So you see, it's almost double. According to the defense, according to calculations by Huffington Post, a servicewoman was nearly 180 times more likely to have become a victim of military sexual assault in the past year than to have died while employed during the last 11 years of combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those are some staggering statistics. According to the most recent report by the Pentagon's Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Office, 3,192 sexual assaults were reported out of an estimated 19,000. So you can see that they're not being reported. And we'll talk about why. Roughly 52 a day. 52 a day. 52 people violated, devalued by someone else a day, women, just in the military. October 1st, 2010 to September 31st, 2011, The department estimates that only roughly 14% of the assaults were reported. The majority of sexual assaults each year are committed against service members by service members. While MSA or the MSA does not affect only women, the office characterizes the vast majority of victims are female and the vast majority of perpetrators as male. I'm so thankful that we're a family in the Peaceful Solution, because when you get tongue-tied, you always have someone that's going to be right there on top of it and to help you. So that's what the Peaceful Solution is all about, and I appreciate that so much. So it didn't give statistics for men, but I did take the opportunity to go to a website which if you have time, you might want to. It might break your heart. But you might want to, so you know that how important your job as a Peaceful Solution representative is. So this here article was from 9/10/2019. It was on www.nytimes.com. And it says 6 men tell their stories of sexual assault in the military. Could I have my first slide, please? I want you to look at these men when the slide comes up. And I want you, oh wait, here it says here, more than 100,000, oh here we go, men have been sexually assaulted in the military in recent decades. We can continue on with the next slides then. Shame and stigma kept their vast majority from coming forward to report the attacks. Thank you. Okay, so continuing on with the slide, please. Thank you. Okay, you see this? What does that say? Oh, this is the man that did this here report. Actually, I think we're missing the first slide of the first man, but let's go to him. What is his name? Paul Lloyd. This is the second man. He was in the store looking for light bulbs. He was at, the candles were there too at the same time, and he went to smell a candle. He immediately fell to the floor and grabbed his head, and he broke down. Why? His hands went over his face, and he sank to the floor sobbing. Raped in the shower stall, the smell was of the same shampoo that he was using. So you see, it isn't you're attacked one time and you get over it the next day. It took him 5 years to talk about his incident. 5 years of living in a dark world where he didn't know how to ask for help, tormented day after day by the assault that had occurred to him. He was assaulted when he was 17 years old. Thinking that you go into the Army, or the Navy, wherever you're going to go, and you're going to have an opportunity to travel the world. They say, travel the world, see things, prepare for a job, and when you get out, we'll pay for your college. Well, when something like this occurs to a human being, it's hard for them to even become a human being again. And then they need a lot of help. They need a lot of guidance to get back to where they need to be. Could we have the next slide, please? Okay, this is Bill, no? Yeah, Bill Minix, he's 64. He was also 17 when he went into the military. And once he came out of the military, he spent most of his adult life in a black box, shut off from the world. He burned through many jobs and 2 marriages because he didn't know how to deal with the suffering that he was going on inside. Can we go to the next one? Well, the reason I'm showing you this is that these are not just statistics. These are people. And when you see a statistic like this, realize that there's so much more going on in a human being than just saying this occurred to me. It's such a devaluing thing So then we have Billy Joe Capshaw. He was 17 also when he was molested and beaten and drugged almost a year by the one that they put them in like their little cabins together. There was two to a cabin, and it was another young man that was in there that did this to him. He was discharged, and for 5 years he didn't leave his mother's house. He slept on the couch with the lights on in the kitchen because he was raped in a bed. He couldn't even get past that. So you see how devastating this kind of situation is for another human being. It's hard to deal with those things. It's hard to know how to function as a human being. And can we have another one, please? What is that man's name? Okay, Ethan Hansen. He was, we're going to Keith Phillips, sorry. He took a deep breath, and he started a secret that had gnawed at him for 25 years. He said, I was sexually molested in the Navy when I was 17 years old. He reported the abuse, and he was accused of lying. So to have something like this occur to you, and even when you do come forth, and when you do come and ask for help, you don't always get it. Now there was another man, and it would have been the first one, but if you can't get the picture of him, I still want to talk about him. And he had this status eyes. He was now 71 years old. His name is Jack Williams, and when he was 18, he was in boot camp. He was molested by his sergeant. He put up with it for a few more times, and he thought, I'll just get through boot camp, and when I'm done, I'll go and tell somebody, and I'll get the help I need. So after boot camp, he reported, the anger still trembles in his voice decades later when he describes the Air Force's response. No investigator ever called me. Nothing was ever done. You would not find that in the Peaceful Solution. We would always try to listen and try to find the answer to solving the problems. The most important way to solve any problems is not to let them occur in the first place. Prevention. And this is why the author of The Peaceful Solution, Israel Hawkins, saw many problems in this world, but he knew the solution was education. And that's why we diligently, just as he so diligently and zealously put forth this program so that this world could be a better place, so that people wouldn't hurt each other. Remember we went over that on page 11, where it says, behavior and attitude toward all life, accepting that life is valuable. Well, when someone does this to another person, it shows how they don't value that other person. So it's very important that we do that. So going on now on page 90, U.S. troops defile dead Afghans on camera. An eye-opening video clip that made it online caused a scandal on par with what erupted from the Abu Ghraib photos of 2004. Now U.S. Marines have been caught on film urinating on dead Afghans. The U.S. troops were revealed to torture and chastise prisoners who were serving as living detainees within the Institute's wall. In the last clip, however, Americans are shown not just disrespecting the alleged enemy, but failing to honor those that lost their lives in the name of war. And I wonder, how long does it take a mind to become that desensitized to be able to treat another human being that way? And that's why we in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, we know we have a big job, but we are determined. We are determined to teach this. And every person that learns will teach another. and another, and we can see a world where everyone is taught the peaceful solution, where there wouldn't be any situation like this. In fact, there would not even be war. Can you imagine a world without war? We can see it. Israel Hawkins was a visionary. He could see a world without war, but it had to be really worked at, taught. It goes on to say, some of these incidents certainly seem to be the fault of a breakdown in leadership at the small unit level. Where was the sergeant who was supposed to say, "Stop, boys, we don't do that. We don't disrespect the dead," said Mr. Exum, who led a light infantry platoon in Afghanistan in 2002, and then led a platoon of Rangers in both Iraq and Afghanistan in 2003 and 2004. It says the military even has songs promoting things like this. And that's really showing how we have to be very careful about the influences that we are around. And if I think we might have a slide for this, but if we don't, on page 60 of the character unit, it says influences are all around us. It says an influence is something or someone that has the ability to affect your attitude, your way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Influences can come in all different sizes. They can be positive or negative, subtle or bold, but the one thing they all have in common is they all have the ability to affect what you value and affect your character in either a positive or negative way. We have to guard what comes into our minds and what we accept as right and wrong. Now, the peaceful solution can lay that foundation for you, but you still have to do the work. We still have to make the choices. But here we really have it in the peaceful solution. It says I put down here, honoring a system that perpetuates killing as a solution has to stop. Teach war, it continues. Teach peace, all wars will stop. We must go to the cause to get it fixed. On page 91, here are the questions. What are some of the stressors military personnel might encounter? And we talked about that when we were going over the lesson plan. Trauma, deployment, separation from family, the unknown, fear, anxiety, not knowing what each day is going to bring. So even if you set your mind in advance, you might not even have set it in advance for a surprise that you might have to do that day. So you can see that they really do deal with a lot of stress. And how could these stressors affect the choices that are made? Well, if you're under a lot of stress and you don't know how to handle it, you might say the wrong things, you might do the wrong things, you might hurt someone unintentionally or intentionally, but it will affect your relationships. It will have a mental and emotional and a physical effect on yourself and those that you're around. And so it says here, what are some ways to prevent the types of things described in the articles? Well, we know the answer. Teach the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. You see that big stop sign, stop and think, to always stop, think, consider your options, and then what? Proceed with the right choice. There we go, right up there. Set your mind in advance, speak up to the right person. Leaders must set the rules, have one another's back, watch out for bullying, etc., etc. Yes, these are all the things that we must do for the peaceful solution. Now, set in your mind in advance to make moral choices, regardless of what your circumstance you encounter, will help you in all areas of your life. So even though we're talking about armed forces here, you know that applies to your work area also. So it says here, speak up to the right person. And I know in some of these men's situations, they did speak up, and they didn't get the help. And so they sort of stopped. But find somebody else. Go to someone else and just keep going until you find someone that will listen to you. And then you're not just helping yourself at that time. You're helping everyone else that might come into that same situation. And if each person will come forward, and yes, it takes courage, but you know what? Having the peaceful solution will give you courage. No one has to suffer alone for 40-some years, 20-some years, and not know how to say it, not know how to ask for help, while their lives are being just wasted, tormented in their mind, the scenarios over and over again. That isn't the way it is, and the peaceful solution will help you get through that. It says, never accept any form of disrespect as normal. If you see something, report it. If something occurs to you, report it. See, do it. Just get through it and do it. As an officer or leader, make it clear from the start that no disrespect will be allowed in your unit. This includes verbal and physical disrespect. Military personnel are known to have another's back in the field. Be sure that the same concept applies to all areas. Watch out for bullying or any other forms of disrespect and report as needed. The need for respectful interaction and communication, even as you perform your duties, is necessary, and you might want to highlight this here whole paragraph, to avoid making difficult situations even worse. Respect must be shown in all situations to everyone involved. There is no justifiable reason for disrespecting anyone, regardless of the environment military personnel must endure. By including character education in all basic training programs, men and women will be better prepared to perform their military service with respect to all. Now, someday, says here in this here quote down at the bottom, someday, when we all learn to respect others, right to life and peace, there will be no need for military in any country. I do have another slide, and it's a slide of at the United Nations building where this man put a sculpture of the gun that has the shaft of it twisted so it can't, there you go, so it can't be used to kill. This man was born in 1934, which I find pretty amazing that was the same year Israel Hawkins was born, who brought forth the peaceful solution. The reason he did that sculpture is because his friend was killed by a gun. Now, he did it to get an awareness, but only Israel Hawkins, through the peaceful solution, has the answers. He has the solution. You know, it's great to be aware of things, but if you just let everyone know that this is going on, but you don't have a solution, then it will continue. And we see that even though that was done in 1980, we see that it still continues. In a book that the overseer wrote about 4 years before he brought forth his first book on the peaceful solution, in that book he said, war is man's way of destroying an enemy that he created for himself by rejecting laws of peace. And I thought, wow, this man, Israel Hawkins, had such a vision and such a drive and a desire to bring forth peace that even years before you could see all the thoughts that were formulating in his mind to know what he would have to do to make a program to bring forth peace. At this time, I want you all to welcome our next teacher, Sarah.
Hello, everyone. Debria did an awesome job. So we are going to pick up right where she left off, and we're going to turn over to, we're going to go back to the lesson plan. So we're going back to page 80. And let's look at procedure 8. Page 80, procedure 8. It says, remind students that we all have different cultures and beliefs, therefore, their understanding of what is respectful behavior will vary. However, there are basic guidelines to follow for all people. Create a discussion on what basic rules of respect for all people are. And then it lists some possible answers here. Asking before touching belongings, never telling dirty jokes or making sexual comments. And this part up here where it said, however, there are basic guidelines to follow for all people. You can write off to the side there the character unit, page 8, which talks about the 3 basic categories of morality, which is also in the workplace manual that we just went over: behavior and attitude towards all life, possessions and property, and the environment. It says, having set rules for what is acceptable behavior for your specific work environment can reduce many misunderstandings. Have students take turns reading the section, Take the Steps to Respect, on page 92. Discuss the importance of setting their minds in advance and having the right attitude to handle disrespect to the best of their abilities. Read the section, You Have to Have the Right Attitude to deal with disrespect, starting on page 93. Discuss and expound. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn over to page 92. And the top says, Take the Steps to Respect. Okay, so like Debria talked about, she went over the previous scenarios that we covered that gave many different examples of situations that you may encounter in the workplace. Okay? So on page 92, it says, anyone can learn how to be respectful with character education training as taught by the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. And that's one of the many amazing things about this program, is that no matter what your background is, anyone can take the concepts in this program and put them into life, into their life. And it changes the hearts and the minds. And with personal effort and determination, you will reap the benefits. Remember, we talked about, in the previous scenarios. If you don't remember what those are, I encourage you to go back and look over them, because, we talked about those and we went over when the situation is handled appropriately, the benefits that come from that. As an employee, supervisor, or manager, you can make respect a part of your work environment by first recognizing and appreciating the value of respect in all of your interactions. In this way, you can be a perfect role model to others. And whether we're in a work environment or not, keep in mind that you are always a role model. We're always a role model. We're always teaching by our example, whether you think someone's watching you or not. We have to be so aware of what we're doing, because either we're being a positive role model or we're being a negative role model. It says, choose to treat others with respect at all times. Okay, choose. It's a choice. Each individual has to make that choice. And encourage those around you to respect each other as well. Okay, so encouraging each other to, show respect at all times to all people. So here are some simple rules and policies you can put into effect for the entire business team to help foster a respectful work environment. Okay, so we're going to go into these steps here. And the first one is speak in a respectful tone of voice. And we covered in our last class that, remember, it's not just our tone of voice, but it's also our body language and our facial expressions. And if you turn over to page 12, let's just go over what the definition of respect is. Okay, respect is a positive character trait, and it means to value others as important as yourself and to allow that to show through your actions and attitude. Okay, to value others as important as yourself. In order to do that, you have to be showing self-respect. Once you realize that you have value and have worth, then you're able to show that respect to other people. So it starts with having self-respect, and then we can show it to others. Okay, number 2, all conversations and interactions must be appropriate. Okay, that word appropriate means respectful at all times. All conversations. It doesn't say, only if you're being shown respect. No, it says at all times to anyone that you come in contact with. Point number 3, respect all people regardless of color, nationality, religion, or ethnicity. And, these differences that we have about us, the place that we were born, what our background is, those are things that we can't control. And, instead of looking at it as, oh, this person is completely different, we should want to learn more about each other's, differences and their backgrounds. We should want to learn more about them. We should find it, very interesting to get to know them. And I want to reference the respect unit. I have an overhead for that. It's the respect unit on page 60. And the title is Respecting Diversity. And it says, along with communicating our needs appropriately, we must also respect others by being appreciating and accepting their differences. People come in all different shapes, sizes, nationalities, and cultures. Some are born mentally or physically challenged, while others may be in a wheelchair because of a sickness or an accident. Regardless of how different someone may appear to be, they still deserve respect. Respecting diversity means not teasing, putting others down, or ignoring people because of their nationality, physical appearance, or disability. And then skipping down in the second paragraph, it says, there was an article published in 2001 shows that people share more similarities than differences. It says the article states that human beings are 99.9% alike in their genetic sequence and proves that there is only one race, and that's the human race. So right there, okay, even the scientists can prove that. There's only one race, and that's the human race. And then at the bottom it says this 0.1%, okay, so that 1%, 0.1% gives us different physical characteristics such as skin color and hair texture. And those are the different things that are special about each one of us that makes us all, makes each person a unique individual. Okay, so back on page 92, point number 4, never ignore anyone. And this is something that, we might do without even doing it on purpose. You might be busy, trying to finish up an assignment, whether it's doing paperwork or, whatever it might be in your work environment, and someone's trying to get your attention. And instead of stopping and seeing what they need, you keep writing and you keep doing what you were doing. Simply by doing that, you're ignoring the other person. And sometimes there might be a situation, there might be a life-threatening emergency, take for instance like a fire, or someone is seriously injured. And in that situation, you might need to ignore the other person and go deal with that situation, with that emergency, but then afterward, you can always go back to that person and say, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to ignore you, I had to go take care of this. So there's always a respectful way to go about, taking care of the things that we need to, even in the case of an emergency. And, going back to that person and, letting them know that shows them respect. Okay, so let's go down to the next one here. Do not bring personal issues to work and take them out on others. And, some people might think, okay, well, what does that have to do with anything? Why shouldn't we be focused on that? But, these things, whenever you're focusing on things not related to your work, it takes your mind off, getting the job done. And it can be very distracting. It causes you not to be able to focus properly. And then think about, that doesn't just affect you and your work, but that affects all the people that you encounter during the day, that you interact with, the other employees, because, they may be trying to talk to you about something and all you're doing is, dwelling on this personal issue that, has nothing to do with your work. So when, it's important that when we're at work, we're focused on the work that we are doing, because we don't want to take away from what we're trying to do and helping other people. Okay, so let's go down to the next point. Keep your work environment clean, neat, and tidy. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm someone that cannot stand a messy workspace. I don't like messes, period. So if I see a mess, I want to clean it up. And I've also, on the flip side, seen people where, they have their desks and you walk in and there's papers everywhere, there's books everywhere, and if you try to go over there and grab something or just straighten it up, they're like, no, 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 don't touch it, don't touch it. That's my organized mess. I know where every single thing is. And I'm like, how can you function like that? Like, okay, it's an organized mess, but I still don't see how it's organized. But, somehow they know where everything is. But, what if someone were to, come in and you weren't there and they had to fill in for you? Would they be able to find anything? So there are different things that we can do to keep our work environment clean. And I'll share with you this. A great friend of mine, we worked in the same area, and we have a desk. We shared a desk, and it's a fairly big desk. So throughout the day, we would be dealing with a lot of paperwork and books and different things like that, and we would have students come and, putting things on our desk, and we'd have other people come and just set things on our desk, and we also had projects that we were doing. And sometimes, the desk would get really messy when we were in the middle of working on this project. But after, it was either me or her, one of us, we would just start cleaning. And we would clean it up right away. And it helped us to, be able to not only stay focused, but stay organized. And then when we, came back the next day, we knew where everything was. And it also helped those who, if someone needed to step in for us, we could tell them exactly where, the book was, or they could find this paper in this drawer. And it really, when you take the time to keep your workspace neat and clean, it really helps you. It's part of, being successful, and it helps you to be efficient. And also, when you have other people who are maybe coming into your business throughout the day, they're going to notice how you keep the place. They're going to see if things, if you keep everything neat and tidy, or if you just have, random stuff stacked everywhere and everything's a mess and it looked like it hasn't been clean. So that's something that, they're going to keep in mind as well. These people keep, their workspace very neat and tidy. They're organized, they're responsible. So that does say a lot, too, about, other people that come as well. So let's go down to the next point here. When on the job, work comes first. Okay, and that kind of goes along with the point above the last one that we just read. Don't bring personal issues to work. When you're at work, you're supposed to focus on the job that you are doing so you can perform it at, at your best. And whether it's, serving customers or doing paperwork in an office, when you're on the clock, you have to focus on your work. And, okay, so let's go down to the next point. Ask and receive permission before using the possessions of others. Okay, and this is another really big one. We talked, there was a whole chapter already that we covered on asking. And, it's just a 3-letter word, but it's so important. Simply by asking, it can, keep there from being many conflicts. So asking is important. It's an important part in showing respect. And not asking, well, what does it cause? It causes conflicts. It causes waste of time, lost items, costs money to replace, which could have all been avoided if you simply asked. And, it's easy to get lax with people that, are coworkers. We see them, almost every day. You get comfortable with them, and then you just think, okay, well, she won't mind if I just take a pen without asking. She won't mind. I'm sure she'll say it's fine. But they have rights over their possessions too. So unless they say, go ahead, you can use this whenever, then you still need to ask. All right, so down to the next point. Dress appropriately, okay, or you can say modestly, at all times. It says, keep in mind that what is popular in the fashion industry may not be appropriate for work. Tight, revealing clothes, high slits, low plunging blouses, and low-hanging baggy pants serve as a distraction and it puts the focus on the wearer and not on the work. Okay, so some companies, they might have a specific dress code that, when you come to work, this is what you have to wear. But not every company is like that. Not every company has a dress code. But again, it's part of having that, self-respect. If you have that self-respect, then you'll dress appropriately, you'll dress modestly. So, you're not drawing attention to yourself, and, not only are you helping yourself out, but you're helping those around you to stay focused and get the work done. Okay, and lastly, the point at the bottom here. It says, follow all rules and guidelines exactly as given in your work area. And rules is something that we learned way back in the kindergarten series. That's how important they are. And not only do they help keep us safe, but they help things to run smoothly and in order. Okay, so we know just how important they are because all throughout the Peaceful Solution, we've learned about rules. We've heard it time and time again that in order, for a business to run smoothly, you have to have rules and regulations. Just imagine what would occur if you didn't have any rules. And, you were the supervisor or the boss of this certain company, and, you didn't have any rules. You let your employees do whatever they wanted to do. Okay, they came to work at whatever time they felt like it. They, took a really long lunch break, or they took however many breaks they wanted to during the day. They took personal phone calls and, called up their friends during their work. They were coming and going whenever they please, going into other coworkers' offices and, taking and using their belongings. And instead of going to the supervisor, well, they just decided that they'll make the decisions and they'll, run the company however they please. You really wouldn't have a business for long if, that's how it was being run, because everyone would be doing whatever they want to do. You would have many conflicts, people saying, I want to do it this way, and someone else says, no, we're doing it my way. And, there would ultimately be total chaos. And you would probably be dealing with conflicts, all throughout the day that there would be no customer service because you would be, spending so much time just trying to work out the problems that were going on. So, looking at it like that, you can see how rules are so important. So let's go down here to the very bottom of the page. It says, aspects of what is deemed acceptable behavior can change from one culture to the next and can also vary based upon religious beliefs. Having set rules and policies in place will help to unify the concept of respect in the workplace. And when there's unity in the workplace, things can run smoothly. Regardless of nationality, religious beliefs, or ethnicity, everyone will be able to coexist peacefully through adherence to the rules. Okay, and that's what we want. We want everyone to be able to get along with each other and be peaceful and enjoy the work that they do. All right, so let's go over to page 93. It says, you have to have the right attitude to deal with disrespect. Okay, now you might be asking yourself, what is the right attitude to deal with disrespect? How can I possibly have a right attitude, when I'm being shown disrespect? But we're going to go over some really great tips that are mentioned here. It says, it is important to have the right attitude to successfully deal with disrespect. Rather than walking out on the job, or worse yet, retaliate, strive to work out the issues quickly and respectfully. Okay, so, rather than just walking out in the very moment, that might seem like your only option. Okay, I'm tired of this person yelling at me. They're always causing problems. I'm so annoyed with them. It would be so much easier just to walk out. But you're going to wake up tomorrow and, realize that you possibly don't have a job because, you just walked out on it. Okay, so then you're going to really be regretting that choice that you made. So there are other ways that we can deal with disrespect. And one of them being going to an appropriate authority figure and getting help. And Debris covered this, in her portion of the class, going to an authority figure. And, if you don't get help right away, don't give up. Keep going and keep, letting people know, letting a trusted adult know what is going on in order for the situation to be dealt with appropriately. It says, remember that your livelihood could very well depend upon how you respond to someone who is being disrespectful towards you. Okay, it could, mean whether you have a job by the end of the day or not. All right, so tip number 1. Tip number 1 is remain calm. Okay, we've covered this many times in our previous classes. Remain calm. This is where you practice self-control to avoid responding impulsively. Okay, when you respond impulsively, you don't stop to think. You just act out on whatever you are feeling in that very moment. And that's something we don't want to do. We never want to act impulsively. And then the next sentence, I underlined and highlighted that. It says, you are in control. And who are you in control of? You're in control of yourself. You're not in control of anyone else but yourself. It says, determine that regardless of how you are treated or by whom, you will maintain your respectful attitude and not give in to a desire to run away or retaliate. Okay, so no matter how you're feeling in that moment, you have to determine in your mind that you're not going to retaliate against this person who is treating you with disrespect. Okay, you don't give yourself that option. Retaliation is never the answer. Okay, so number 2. Number 2 is think. Consider if the disrespect is even worth responding to. Sometimes not responding is a clear indication that the disrespectful words and actions have no effect on you. And something I've realized is, sometimes people say things and they do things just to try to get a reaction out of you. They want to see how you're going to take it. They want you to get frustrated and get irritated. So if you respond back and show them that, it doesn't bother you, and you're just going to leave it at that, you're not going to, come back and say something else that's disrespectful, then more than likely they're going to stop because they're not getting the reaction that they wanted. And they might, move on and do it to someone else. But eventually they're going to see that, it's not working. They're not getting the response that they wanted. It says, it deflects the impact of the statement or action and makes the attempt at disrespect futile and insignificant. But in this next sentence here, it says, be careful to never ignore an authority figure, though. Keep your focus work-orientated. Okay, so although, it's very important that no matter what someone is saying or doing to us, we don't come across as being disrespectful back towards them. So if an authority figure, has lost their self-control and they're being disrespectful or they're saying something that's disrespectful, we can calmly, deal with that situation. And sometimes it's best to, just not say anything, as we're going to go over a few paragraphs down here. Sometimes it's best just to remain silent. Okay, number 3. Beware of your tone of voice. Beware of your tone of voice. If you must respond, control your tone of voice. A frustrated, sarcastic, angry tone will most likely cause a situation to escalate and spiral out of control. Okay, so we don't want to come across as defensive. And, sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and then say what you need to say. But remember, say it in a calm tone of voice. Because if you say it, in a disrespectful way, if you start yelling at them, then most likely, they're going to yell right back at you. And before you know it, you have a huge conflict on your hands, which could have been, de-escalated from simply remaining calm and responding properly. Number 4, beware of your words. And this one is so important because, the things that we say, we can never take them back. And words are very powerful. You can say something and it will stick in a person's mind. It's something that, they never forget. So we have to be mindful of the words that we are saying. It says, it is a natural tendency to want to get even and respond in kind, but it is also futile and can cause the situation to escalate. So if you find it necessary to respond, be careful of what you say and how you say it. Okay, you might have to take a few minutes. You might have to, excuse yourself from the situation and say, I need a moment. Can I come back to the situation when I'm ready? Okay, you might have to do that. Having just the right comeback line or savvy response is not as important as building a positive moral character, keeping your job, and maintaining a peaceful work environment. Okay, so, having the right comeback line to say, it's just not worth, it's just not worth it, okay? And it actually, takes much more strength of character to be able to stand up when you're in that position and say, I'm not going to have any part of this. I'm going to practice self-control and keep my cool. Number 5, be prepared. Is a coworker disrespectful on a regular basis? When you work with others, expect that from time to time. Someone may be disrespectful either intentionally or unintentionally. Sometimes people are stressed, don't feel well, or are tired and may not be as thoughtful as they should be. Okay, so, sometimes people are having a bad day. We've all had a bad day. And it's not to say that, if you're having a bad day, you have the right to act however you want. No, that's not what it's saying. But sometimes, we might not be aware that we're coming across disrespectful towards someone else. It says, or as sad as it may be, they may actually choose to behave in an uncaring manner towards others because they haven't been trained in positive character development. Regardless of the reason, disrespect should never be accepted as normal. And I also underline that point. Disrespect should never be accepted as normal. Even though, it's a common thing, sadly, it's a common thing that is in our society today, we shouldn't accept it, as something that, it just occurs every day, it's normal. No, it shouldn't be. If you feel that you are frequently and intentionally disrespected, start documenting the occurrences and your response. This will serve as legitimate proof of the frequency of the disrespect you are experiencing. Then, seek help from an authority figure to effectively resolve the situation. Okay, so there's always, keep in mind that, when you're teaching this, stress to your students that there's always steps we can take to peacefully deal with these types of situations. There's always a peaceful solution. And lastly, point number 6, do not hesitate to ask for help. Okay, sometimes you might need help dealing with a certain situation. You might need to, like it said here, don't hesitate to ask for help. You might need to go to your supervisor or someone in a higher authority and ask them for help. Sometimes we need help to effectively deal with and peacefully resolve issues with a coworker. When a coworker persists in disrespectful behaviors despite our best efforts to ignore the situation or to respond appropriately, it is time to find a mediator to talk out the problem. This is your opportunity to show how much you desire a peaceful resolution on a personal and professional level. And then lastly, remember to consistently display self-control, patience, and of course respect as you work out these issues. And keep in mind, all the steps that we went over this evening, it's not something that, is going to come overnight and you're going to be perfect at it. Each one of us is taking these things, learning them, and then trying our very best to, practice them in every situation. And it takes lots of practice. It takes lots of consistency. And no, we're not perfect at it, but we keep trying, and that's what matters. The more you do it, the more you're going to see yourself succeed. Okay, so with this, I want to thank you all for tuning into our class, and I hope everyone has a great evening.